Please watch the video until the end. Chapter 1, The House with the Drawn Curtains. She lived in a house that seemed to be built against the sun. Curtains were heavy and always drawn, shutters locked with the routine of someone who had learned precaution like a prayer. Mara's life was measured in small things: the coolness of the kitchen tile before dawn, the hush of the radiator at midnight, the precise timing of when she could open a window without inviting the light she could not bear. Neighbors thought she was fragile, schoolmates called her mysterious. Her father, Samuel, treated their home like a warm box for a rare artifact, tended, alarmed, protective. The narrator, who watched and understood, knew this house held more than fear. It held courage disguised as restraint. Mara feared daylight because it shredded skin and made life precarious, but she feared the other thing equally, the loneliness that came from hiding. At night she read books by lamp, learned songs from the radio, and stitched a border of courage into the hems of her clothes. In silence she planned small rebellions: a day at the beach at midnight, a walk under sodium lamps, a borrowed cafe visit after sunset. Her life was a choreography around light and its consequences. Chapter 2, The Boy with the Guitar. Noah arrived like an unexpected melody. He was not loud, but his presence tugged at the edges of Mara's seclusion. He painted murals on freight walls and played guitar on the corner where shuttered shops let their bins breathe at night. His laugh was generous, his curiosity came without pity. He did not know the precise science of Mara's condition, nobody did unless she told them, and when he met her accidentally on a twilight walk, his first response was simply to listen. They met because the city refused to sleep, and Mara, who liked the way shadows held secrets, had slid out to watch the late trains. Noah's canvas, pinned to a milk crate, captured the curve of the station's light in strokes of indigo. He thought she was another stray admirer of the night. She thought he was the sort of person who could exist only in a story. Conversation unfolded like a map, small talk first, then confessions in the dark. He spoke of his mother's worn vinyls and the recipes scribbled in the margins of his childhood. She told him about books that tasted like rain and the thrill of public transit at 2 a.m. There was a tenderness in their exchange that made the world outside the tunnel feel less severe. Noah did not ask prying questions. He asked for her company. To Mara, that felt like an offering of light she could accept. Chapter 3, Midnight Promises. They made promises in the language of small adventures. Noah learned which lamps cast a safe halo and which burned too bright. Mara learned to time a walk so that dawn never caught them. They discovered a carnival that only came to town between 1 and 4 in the morning, an unlikely carousel behind the old fairgrounds, its lights warm and amber, as if the machines themselves respected her rules. There, among the scent of fried dough and the soft whir of brass, they held hands and traded stories like currency. Mara taught Noah to find solace in the muted. Noah taught Mara to watch faces when words failed. He painted a mural of a moon with an open window, a place where shadows could shelter. He recorded a song for her, raw and simple, in which the chorus kept returning to her name like a lighthouse beam. It was a love that did not rush. It took gentle steps through back alleys, on stoops, into libraries that closed late. Their affection developed the way watercolor spreads across paper, delicate, staining, impossible to erase once set. Yet the narrator knew that every joy had a seam. The secret of Mara's life was a thread woven through each tender moment. It threatened not only her health but the fragile honesty that had started to bloom between them. Secrets, unspoken, have their own weight. They collect and press down until either they are liberated or they crack the surface beneath. Chapter 4, The borrowed day. Noah wanted to give Mara a day that felt like the rest of the world's ordinary, sunlight included. It was not malice but a wish to expand the small circle of her life. He planned a surprise, convincing her it was a late afternoon open mic in a greenhouse, telling her she could stay under cover and rest if the light worried her. Mara agreed, trusting him. They arrived with the greenhouse windows fogged by the humid air. The plants inside were lush, and the lamps along the paths cast a glow that promised safety. For 3 hours, Mara did not think about the sun. She listened to Noah's song again, watched the way he watched her, and let the world be ordinary for once. Time, like tenderness, felt abundant. The narrator watched them move through that borrowed day like two swimmers taking advantage of a tide. But promises built on omission thin easily. A sliver of afternoon light, miscalculated, slipped through a vent, the kind of human mistake that has nothing dramatic in intention but everything in consequence. Mara felt it like a small betrayal. Her throat tightened and the edges of the greenhouse blurred. Noah caught the change in her before she could speak, panic in his eyes, an apology shaped like a question. He scooped her into his arms, and they escaped into the shadowed lane where he carried her until the symptoms lessened. That night, under the relative safety of the street lamps, they spoke longer and louder than they had in weeks. Noah asked the questions he should have asked before the surprise, and Mara told him the truth, not the clinical name of her condition but how daylight made her life fragile. He listened and then listened some more. It was the sort of listening that changes a person because it requires remaking habits, the habit of shielding, the habit of assuming protection, the habit of silence. Noah's face when she finished was not shattered by disappointment but steadied by responsibility. Chapter 5, Decisions at Dusk. After the greenhouse, their rhythm shifted. There were fewer surprises and more planning. Noah redesigned his nights to suit both their lives, scheduling performances at times Mara could attend, painting with pigments that faded toward indigo so she could watch without damage. Friends began to notice that they had become a pair who lived on each other's timetables, a duet practiced in careful measures. Mara, who once believed her existence would be a quiet observance, began to consider bolder things, maybe college, maybe a small apartment with blackout curtains she chose herself, maybe a life with windows that opened to a future she could share. The narrator, privy to these interior reckonings, understood that hope is less a straight road than a corridor lined with doors, each requiring the courage to open it. But a new worry surfaced: what to do when a life must eventually face daylight. Noah talked about traveling with his guitar, about painting murals for towns with long summers. That vision frightened Mara because it hinted at a future where their times might not sync. They argued, not badly, but with a sincere urgency, the kind of conversation that asks whether love is enough or whether love needs the structure of agreement. In those tense moments, the narrator felt compassion for both, Mara's guarded caution and Noah's restless generosity. Chapter 6, Light Between Two Hearts. In the end, their choice was not dramatic but faithful. They did not attempt to cure what could not yet be cured, they fashioned small capitulations and daring acceptances. Noah learned to perform in dimmer venues and to schedule trips around sunsets. Mara learned to take risks measured by science and hope. They built a life that fit the contours of Mara's days, books stacked in easy reach, lampshades softened with tissue paper, shared playlists of songs that could be hummed softly and felt later. Their love became an architecture of compromises and small celebrations, birthday cakes eaten under string lights, a winter midnight spent on the rooftop wrapped in heavy blankets, excursions to the sea when the moon painted a safe, pale trail on the water. time, for them, had a peculiar elasticity. There were nights of laughter and mornings of quiet care. There were thrills, Noah's first gallery show with Mara hidden in the crowd, her name on his lips a steadying litany, and there were losses, parties missed, classes skipped, the small ache of the normalities others took for granted. The narrator watched them as if watching two constellations align and then slowly rotate into place, revealing a pattern both fragile and eternal. Years melted and hardened their edges into a mutual tenderness. They learned that love is not the obliteration of fear but the decision to stand near someone despite it. Neither of them imagined that their nights would be perfect, they only hoped the nights would be enough to make mornings worth bearing. And when dawn sometimes threatened to come sooner than they had planned, they faced it together, arms steady, hearts practiced in the art of staying. If you enjoyed this tale, please subscribe to the channel, activate notifications, give the video a like, leave a comment, and share the video.